to pick up the slack.
Good evening. Welcome to the Voice of Reason show. I'm John Martin, the host, and you got the introductions already. I have to apologize for Rob not being here tonight because he had an electrical problem at his house that he had to take care of right away.
Yeah.
He couldn't take a bath or shave or anything. He was in bad shape.
Yeah.
Okay. The first topic I want to talk about today is from the water department. I got a letter here from the new superintendent of the water, Rob Raleigh. I asked him some questions, and he sort of formulated a question, a letter, without having another meeting.
Okay.
So he wanted to tell us what he's going to be doing about unaccountable water, which was the big question. And they're going to do something they've done in the past, which was try to find leaks. They have a contractor that's done it before, and they go around and put sound equipment down and see if the valves are leaking, stuff like that. And then if it is, then they'll replace that particular valve. There are other units besides valves that they look at, and I'm not sure what they are, but the last time I remember them doing that, and I do remember that, we were at 33% unaccountable water.
Mm-hmm.
After they got done fixing the leaks, it got down to 30%. Now 3% is not solving our problem, but it certainly was in the right direction anyway.
Mm.
So anyway, they're going to do it again, and they've been budgeted money, $17,425, to look at the possibilities of leaks. Okay. Then they have another thing they want to do with another contractor. They can go around now and read your meter as they drive by.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. It's not for billing. This is for research.
Okay.
So they can do, well, since they only have numbers now coming out, what the water's coming out of the, where they're producing it, they can do the whole town and then see how much they're selling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll be able to come up with ideas about what the next step is. He's been thinking about the next step, which was to put meters in the water mains at different places so that they can sectionalize the problem. If it was just Quinsimmon Avenue, just all the bills that they got on Quinsimmon Avenue and stuff like that. And then they can see where the water is going. So that's one of the problems. They don't know where the water is going, so they can't find it. It's pretty sneaky.
Yes. But the reason that they are so concerned about unaccounted for water is that some years ago, the town, and even now, the town wanted and still wants to drill new wells for water, since the town's population keeps growing. So the question is, can they do that? To do that, they need approval by the state, and the state permit for drilling a new well for water is subject to public hearings, and environmental groups have said that you guys are losing about a third of the water you're pumping out of the ground, and why don't you just, the norm for the amount of water that's lost in a typical town water system might be about as high as 10%, but you're closer to a third. So no new wells for you until you find out where the water's going. And so
Well,
that's why they're so interested in this.
Well, I know the state has complained about it, but they haven't really put the screws to them yet.
Yeah, yeah.
Because this activity that they have here isn't going to find anything.
You don't think so?
Well, they've already done it all before.
Well,
They know all the bills. They know how much they pump. That's how they come up with a number of how much is unaccountable.
yes.
So they can do that, and they can do that every year, or quarter, or whenever we get the bills in. And so I think what they'll have to do is sectionalize the town and say how much water is going, to center of town or something like that.
Yeah, what they must do is put flow meters into the water mains and find out how much is going to the northeast corner of town,
Yeah, that's right.
to the southwest corner of town, and so forth, and gradually find out where the discrepancy lies. And if they're lucky, the discrepancy will lie in one particular area.
But this idea about putting in extra water meters so they can sectionalize, that was suggested by one of these contractors many years ago. The first time I ever heard of unaccountable water, they were suggesting this very thing,
Yes.
and we haven't done it yet.
Well, now we're going to do it, finally. Finally, we are now going to do it. They've
Well,
decided-
we're running out of ideas.
Well, we had that idea. We weren't running out of it. We just ignored that idea for whatever reason, whatever their logic was at that time.
Well, I think. Well, this is a selectman show here. They decided that the problem was with the biggest users, which are residential and very small businesses. So they have replaced all their meters, thinking they would find water passing through the meters that wasn't being recorded, and therefore, well, cheaters.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen.
They changed the meters, but they didn't
They
find
didn't
much.
find anything. So the old meters were working just fine, in other
Yeah.
words.
So, what they didn't do was they didn't put new meters on all the commercial properties where they take in lots of water. But that would have been a more expensive proposition because the meters are much bigger.
Okay.
But we're still going to bypass the commercials and go maybe to a section of town. And if the commercials are in there, maybe they'll boil it down to where they're getting too much water.
Yes.
All right, I told them my theory. I was talking to someone in their office there. They made her go out and go to all the people that weren't paying any bill at all. Found out there wasn't anybody living there. Nobody is using the water. Ain't nobody in there using the water at all. But I think they'll find out that somewhere along the way, extra lines have been given out for free.
You think so?
Oh yeah, I mean that's a lot of water.
Oh. I wouldn't be terribly shocked to learn that, for example, one of the water mains is just pouring water into underground into, for example, Lake Quinsigamon. Nobody would ever see it. It would just
But they've checked
really,
because of the chemistry of the water. They've already checked the lakes and ponds.
really.
None of our treated water is going in there.
Oh, okay,
So yeah, they eliminated that a couple years back.
okay,
They thought that would be a smart thing to do.
yeah,
And but the water, I mean, it's like in some towns, springs pop up and water drains to normal places they go,
yeah,
and then they find it because where it's going is pure water.
yes. I remember in Holden they had a magical spring that,
Yeah.
and it turned out it was pouring out of a water main.
Right. And so, but we don't have anything like that. I mean, they inspected every 205 miles of water mains.
Okay,
They've inspected every inch of it. There's no pools of water anywhere.
uh-oh.
And so they're going to have to come up with something else.
Okay, we need smarter water managers, I guess.
Well, I don't like having the superintendents being the people that decide what to do because they are the water commissioners. I mean, there's nobody else, and it's senior them. And so when the water superintendent comes up with something to do, he has to get it approved by the selectmen, because they're the boss.
Yeah.
And so they don't have any qualifications for this job.
Oh.
I mean, there's schools you go to get the qualifications to be in the water business, and I have met some people like that. As a matter of fact, they used to send one of the selectmen to one of the meetings to get educated, and he says, "This guy just falls asleep.
Really?
You know, he's not interested in this water business, and he's already has another job plus his extra duties with the town." So anyway,
John, just to go back to your comment concerning all of the meters, going back to your comment about all of the meters, residential meters that have been replaced,
okay.
and some of the small business
That's because they're in houses.
But why haven't they done all of the meters everywhere? Because it is very possible that in some of the larger commercial uses, maybe there's a problem there. I should think if you're going to change one meter to find if there's a problem there, you change all the meters, and there's still a doubt whether or not there could be a problem with those other meters. It is
Well,
very
it
possible.
was suggested that they do all of them,
They should be.
but it comes down to dollars and cents.
But if you're spending all that much money to spend all of those residential,
Yeah, we spend millions.
yeah, then you must find the money to do all of them to eliminate that part of the problem. It's like an investment. So if they do all of this and they still find nothing, and we still have this other area that we never have addressed, then eventually they're going to have to do that. It would seem to me that they have a job here of meters. They have an issue of meters. Well, unless you change all the meters, then you really haven't solved that area of a possible problem. You're leaving it cooking on the back burner, so to speak. It's simmering away, and you're going someplace else to try to find the problem.
Well, we're going someplace else, almost going nowhere
I guess so.
with these two jobs that they're going to do this year.
And then the other issue of leakage into the ground, is it possible that it could leak into the ground and still not flow into Lake Quinsigamond? It could
Well,
go in
it
another.
can go the other way.
It could go in another direction.
Yes, on where I live, the hill goes towards Boston.
Right. So where would that flow into? Would that flow into any particular major stream where they could check all of that water, or it could just go in the ground and just pool there someplace?
Yeah, I think the dividing line regarding the flow of water in town is basically along Route 140. That's where to the west of that, I think the water flows towards the Blackstone River, and on the east of that, I think it flows into the Assabet River, and then into the Nashua, and then finally into the Merrimack, I think. So
Well, not too far from my house is this great big pond
really,
in Northborough.
oh yeah,
They should check that. See if our water is in there.
yeah. That's I don't, but well, it would seem obvious to you and me, but I guess maybe not to the water commissioners.
Well, you cross the line.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
You're messing with someone else's water over there.
That's true. That's true.
Well, there was a time when we had drought. We were going to get water from Westboro. There's a great big pond by, was it Lamb Avenue? Where they have the old hospitals.
Oh, the state hospital.
Yeah, there's a really
yeah.
big pond over there.
There is a pond by the state hospital.
Right.
Yeah. We asked to put a plug in and pump the water to us, and they were going to do it. State got involved.
Uh-oh.
Said, "Oh no, they got houses on the edge of that reservoir," and they do. They have houses on the north side and even on the south side. They have some. So you can't have. You got to have like 50 feet of nothing, so that you're protected from contaminants, going into that pond. So we didn't get any water.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you
It
very
wouldn't
much.
have been good enough to drink.
Okay.
All right, so Charlie, you got an article over there you wanted to discuss. What is that?
This was out of the Worcester Telegram maybe a month or so ago. It was an editorial entitled Understanding the Dangers of an On-Demand World. In summary, this is what the author was trying to get across. He said that we now have devices where you can obtain instant music.
Mhm.
I don't know how it works exactly, but from the result is that if you want to listen to any particular artist, any particular song of that particular artist, you have one way of getting into the device and listening to it, and that's all you listen to. And what he says is the negative side about that is because of that, we no longer really have people that are listening to record albums, whether they appear on the 33 and a third discs, as we remember them, the LPs, the long playing.
Oh my
Remember
goodness.
those?
Antiquity.
Right, but those still are around. I have like maybe 200 of them in my home, and they work just fine. They just work fine. But those are making a comeback, believe it or not, but they're very
Really?
expensive. I've seen some of them in the stores, 19 to 20, some go up to $25. Very expensive, but his
Surprised.
point that doesn't exist anymore. You no longer have a demand for CDs. Obviously, tapes are out of the picture, and people don't have physical collections of music anymore.
Mm.
And because of that, on all these albums and CDs and tapes, you don't have just one song by an artist. You have several songs of an artist. So the person that just listens to one song on the artist from the device never gets to see the entire work of this artist on that particular LP. I have in my collection, when I started collecting albums way back in 1962, 1963, when I could afford one every 2 or 3 months, maybe, I would purchase it by looking at the songs and say, I like this song, I like this song. They're the songs I didn't know. Immediately when I take it home and put it on, I would play a little bit of each song just to see what the entire album sounded like. Then I would play the songs that I liked, those two. Then after I got tired of those, I started listening to the other songs that didn't really sound all that good to me. Then after a while of playing them, I discovered how the other songs were just as good, if not better, than the songs that I liked. And that goes into his point, is that because of this listening just to one song on these devices, we are losing a lot of our culture by not understanding the artist in full. Good point. He then goes ahead to talk about instant television, where you don't have to set a schedule to watch any particular program. So if a program is on television, let's say at Wednesday at 10 p.m. and that's your bowling night, then you can watch it Thursday at 5 a.m. in the morning or do everything you want. And he says this is now losing this idea of scheduling where everybody was watching it at the same time. And what people would do is after you watch a program, you see your friend the next morning, there was a conversation piece.
Oh, yes.
And he's saying this is impacting our social communication pattern, that we don't talk with one another anymore. We don't communicate with one another anymore because we are living in isolated worlds when it comes to cultural things.
Oh, yes. As the people used to discuss the popular radio programs that were broadcast,
Right.
everything from Amos and Andy to, Burns and Allen, and then everybody would watch the same TV show, Jack Benny and,
Right.
and
Right.
Ed Sullivan and so forth. Nowadays, though,
Yeah, that is lost.
that's lost.
And because of that, he's saying that is adding to our ills of society. And this is putting more and more people in isolation. So he goes on to say what is lost, first thing is people communicating. And he points to the fact that people are going into isolation. The second thing is we're losing cultural literacy. And this is not just with music, but in any art form, we are losing this because of this isolation factor that exists. Obviously, there's the cultural values embedded in our arts, as he calls it, And that is going, and the isolation problem that we have is creating behavioral problems. Today, or this morning, a terrible, terrible incident occurred out in Santa Clarita, California. A student went into a school, he was 15, I believe, they said the student was 15 years old, and then they later said that today was his birthday. He turned 16 years old. And he went into the school, and I think it was probably between 9 and 10 o'clock, he started shooting. And as of this afternoon, one person died. A girl passed away, I think. And there's 2 or 3 others that are critically hurt, and there's a few others that aren't as seriously hurt. The last I knew, they thought that he had a self-inflicted wound. One report said that he had died, another report said that he isn't. And this is just one incident of what's happening to our young people. They're living in isolation.
Oh, yeah. I
And we are
remember-
pushing them to become more isolated.
Yeah, I remember one time I was having dinner or lunch at a local restaurant here in town, and there are some like 4 teenagers sitting at a table next to mine, and they were all there with their little iPads, texting. Some of them were texting each other. Some of them might have been texting somebody else, but they weren't exchanging a word. You go to the supermarket and you see the kids stocking the shelves with the iPad in the one hand and stocking the shelves with the other.
Right.
And it's just nobody talks to each other. I talked to a kid who was a technician at one of the local businesses, and he said that he was going to give up his iPad because he said nobody talks to each other anymore. He said everybody just, all day long.
That's very sad. And if I'm just to extend that to an educational setting, everything is instant, including knowledge. And that is giving the message that you don't have to have anything in your mind anymore.
Oh, that's true.
You don't have to learn anything
Look it
anymore.
up.
Just Google it, as they say.
Yeah.
Google it. And when it comes to the area of mathematics, and I relate everything to math, I suppose, for some reason, whatever, they don't know how to do simple things. They cannot do simple things. They clearly do not want to take a pen or a pencil and do it on paper, because that takes too long. It's too arduous for them to write out step, 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 step. All you do is just turn to your device, maybe punch in some numbers, and out comes the answer.
Yes, my great despair is trying to pay with cash at any of the local stores, because it's, the kids are totally totally confiscated if you give them any coins at all.
I do that all the time too, because I don't want to get a lot of dollar bills back or a lot of pennies. I like to get quarters and $5 bills as much as I can.
Yes, that's you try to pay your bills, you're with cash, and they just, if you don't give them bills, dollar bills or 5s or 10s or whatever, if you give them change, they just totally, they can sit there for like 30 seconds trying to count the change.
Right. Oh, they'll ask you, why did you give me those 2 pennies?
Yes.
Well, like if it came to 77 cents, I give them 2 pennies so that now I can get back a quarter.
Oh yes, that completely confuses them.
That's way beyond them.
That really bothers them. Or if it came to $16, so I give them 21 so that I get a $5 bill back. But it's only this. I says, I know, but just type it in. I says,
Yeah, all they have to do is put it
right.
into the
And then
cash.
when it comes out to them, and I'll tell them, I said, this is how much you're going to give me back. Really? I say, yes. I says, type it in, and they type it in, and they look, and they're just absolutely amazed in our educational system. And I'm not saying just Shrewsbury. This is universal.
no,
It's
no.
everywhere. Hasn't taught them that. So their ability to think is just very rapidly, has rapidly disappeared and is getting worse and worse and worse. And that's very, very sad. And it seems that the educational setting, the community, the people that are leading education, one of their major thrusts is to create logical thinkers, problem solvers. Well, to create a problem solver, to develop problem solving skills as a human being, you have to be able to do small mathematical tasks like that here, not on a machine, and understand what's going on. And it is just not happening. Yet we keep on pushing students to use technology. I keep on hearing this, and it's on all meetings, no matter where you turn in education, one of the major topics is technology in the classroom. Isn't it exciting?
No.
And I don't see what's so exciting about that. That's a word that's used quite often. Isn't it exciting? The word exciting to me is totally different.
Flashy is about it.
Right, and a brand new thing to use, but just how much is that helping them think logically? And,
No.
and it isn't. It is self-defeating.
No.
And I think this is an extension of what this person is developing in this article, in this editorial. So we have to hopefully show parents this and have them tell their students, don't use this device continually for a long period of time. It's not good for your brain.
No, not.
Well, one of the candidates for Democrats wanted to extend the school days 3 hours.
Really?
Yeah, that way, if parents are working for 8 hours and the kids are only in school for 6,
Yeah.
then they would get babysitting service
Oh,
by the town.
Okay.
yeah. Well,
Some
Well,
people didn't think that was such a good idea.
Well, if they did that, then they're going to have to pay more, compensate the teachers with more money.
oh yes, definitely.
Or they bring in somebody else to be the babysitter.
I mean, you
They do that now.
could just keep everybody after school for 3 hours or whatever.
You know,
They could just,
well, I suppose you could let the teachers go, let them have their normal school day, and after school for, let's say, 45 minutes for extra help, and then they go home, and then you bring in these other, let's say,
minders, babysitters.
yeah, overseers perhaps, and their salary would be considerably less than a teacher, and just hold them there so that parents can go out and work.
Yes. Well,
I think it's time for us to fall in their sleep.
well, almost. Just one last quick thing, and that is on November 9th, Prospect Park had a cleanup day, and I just want to thank everybody who showed up and labored to, I think Mr. Darrell Henry's brought a load of wood chips, and people spread it to mulch all the nice new flower beds that are up there. So
It
thank
was a successful day, Chris?
It was a big turnout, and people
Wonderful.
worked very hard, and things worked out very nicely. Thanks to everybody who was involved. They got my gratitude, and I hope in spring people will see the results.
A nice community effort.
Take
Yes.
your wood chips on the trails.
Oh yeah, that's going to be done too.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Henry, for his wood chips.
Well, it's time to say good night. Good night, all.